Hey, Teach Better family. My name is Katie Miglin, and I am here with the wonderful, amazing Brittany Wolf, and I'm so excited to be talking shop with her this morning. We have a great show ahead of us. We have lots of good things to discuss, and honestly, I'm just excited to catch up with Brittany because it's been a minute since we've talked. So, go ahead and sit tight. If you need to refill your coffee, go ahead and do that, and we'll be right back. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, Teach Better family. My name is Katie Miglin, and I have the pleasure of talking to Brittany Wolf this morning on Teach Better Today, where we go live every single morning on all of your streaming platforms. Brittany, good morning. How are you? So excited to see you.
Good morning. I am doing great. We have an actual beautiful day and week that we're having here in Ohio. So, it's really lifting the spirits.
Yes. Yes, us Midwestern people love a good sunny day, a day that you don't have to bundle up or question whether or not you're leaving the house.
Yes.
So I'm right there with you. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Brittany, I am so pumped that they gave me the honor to talk to you today. This is awesome. But I know you, and I know a lot of people in our community know you. But if people do not know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Brittany Wolf. I am a very, very, very passionate advocate in the Tourette syndrome community. It's been something that I have been passionate about since my diagnosis, pretty much. It has grown. I was diagnosed when I was 7, so you can only be so passionate, I think, about as a child. But I did all kinds of things when I was a child, wrote book reports, all that fun stuff, and that has grown into social media. So I'm a speaker on the Teach Better Speakers Network as well.
Yeah.
And I am also a published author of Ticking My Way Through Life, my book about Tourette syndrome.
Yes, so much to brag about yourself. Honestly, I knew you. I was kind of like a fangirl from a distance, but then I saw you at the Teach Better conference
Yeah.
and I listened to your session and I was like, okay, how does she literally change someone's view in 30 minutes? I mean, I think that's what it was. It was like a 30, 40-minute session. And I was like, dang, where have you been my whole life? Because it was just so eye-opening, not just with people with Tourette's, but literally all kinds of students, so many students that we had worked with and stuff. And so when you say you're advocate, I feel like that might be kind of an understatement.
Well, thank
I
you. You're kind.
I think you're kind of a rock star. So yes, you're on our speakers network, which means you go all over and talk to schools. What
Yeah.
is the one kind of thing you tell yourself when you go to a school or, when you're at a board meeting? I know you kind of talk to students and adults and
Yeah.
everything in between. But what's the one thing that you hope they hear when you're done?
I hope, for businesses and schools alike, I hope that they walk out of the room understanding that the person that's like me, whether it's Tourette syndrome, some other kind of neurodivergent thing, some other disability, whatever it might be, that we deserve to be in that room and we deserve a seat at the table every single time, no matter how we present ourselves on the outside and what that does, whether it's disruptions, as some people like to call them, even though they're not our fault. We deserve to be there and we don't deserve to be kicked out of the room.
That's so awesome. So you travel all over, but then you recently, I would say recently, as in less than a year, have your book that just came out. And tell us a little bit about that and kind of what did that feel to be able to publish your story?
Oh my God. Overwhelming in a good way. It's bittersweet. I actually have it right here. I'm looking at it because I'm doing a series on my YouTube channel where I'm reading the chapters because it's not on audio. And I know some people are better audio, listening learners or readers. So I've been doing a series there. So I had to keep it in this room. It was indescribable. I have wanted to write a book or get a book published my entire life. I've always loved to write. My mom said that I used to like just rewrite books when I was a kid, just because I loved like just the physical action of writing. And it's still my best way. And to be super vulnerable, like it's one of the ways my therapist has connected with me, and she has gotten me back into writing just for me as well. Like when I'm having those emotional days, because I have anxiety too, along with my Tourette syndrome, and I just write, and it's felt so good. It's been so good for me to get back into that and writing just for me too. But holding the book in my hands, because it was a dream that I had that I didn't think was actually possible. I unfortunately had a college professor that basically told me I was terrible at writing and I was never going to accomplish anything that I wanted to do with my writing. So
I hope you sent them a copy of your book.
I did. You can find a copy of that letter on my social media where I dropped it off just this year. I was feeling like the empowerment that day. I'm like, you know what? Today's the day.
Yeah,
So
I love it. Yes.
Up at the school with a little note. So, but yeah, no, it felt indescribable. And when I hear that somebody has connected, I was just talking to somebody. I was doing a video with somebody, a mom of a son with Tourette syndrome, and she was telling me, she's like, he doesn't like to talk about his tics that much, and you gave me insight to how he feels, and that means so much. And that will make me tear up every single time I hear it, because all I've ever wanted to do was at least help one person.
So. And I think you've helped probably a few more than just the one.
I think at this point, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Brittany, what I love about you is that you are so real and vulnerable. I follow you on social media, and okay, this sentence is going to sound weird, but I love when you just post your raw videos of like, today was a day.
Yeah.
Because it makes every person just feel like, yeah, everyone has those days, and everyone is going to, it's okay to face those, but especially the adversities that you face and being honest with them. I think it's so much more powerful than like talking surface level. There's a lot of people out there who talk from that surface level, but you're talking real in the moment of like, right now I'm struggling and this is what it looks like. And I love that about you. So
well, thank you. That means a lot, because those videos are the harder ones to post. Like I think I posted last year, I was in a really dark place last year. My tics were worse than they've ever been in my adult life. And I posted a video where I was in a rough spot, and it took me like 3 days. I kept trying to record it, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm not going to do this. And then one day the words just did kind of flow. And I posted, I'm like, I think I might delete that in like 10 minutes. I'm like, nobody wants to hear me cry. Because I had just gotten done crying. So like my voice is like nasally, like you can, my eyes are puffy because I hadn't slept in weeks and I wasn't eating very well. But sometimes I worry that, because I try to I try to be positive, like, because I've just stemmed off of that in my life. But sometimes I think when I do that, I think it's so important, or I know it's so important to show those bad days, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea that I'm always so positive, which means it's not really that bad. But it is. I can be positive and it can still suck. And I still have those days where I do nothing but cry, because I just want to live in a body that doesn't move all the time. And it gets overwhelming when, I had back pain every single day, pain I've never felt before. I was close to getting acupuncture because my back hurt so bad. I had to go on anxiety medicine, which I've never had to do before in my life, which I'm thankful for now, but it was a hard decision. And my neck was sore. I had headaches every single day. Like I said, I wasn't eating. Like it was to the point where my husband, before I left for work, he's like, please eat lunch today. Like I need you to eat. And so I just wanted to share that so people realize, like, that's why it's not funny to have, like, it's a struggle sometimes. And I just because I don't always show it doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Well, I think something that people maybe don't even think about is like not only like the mental toll, but also the physical toll that you face day to day, especially like you said, when your tics are really bad. I mean, it's hard. It's both, it goes together. It's just a constant something that you face. But I think it's good that you're real, that you're not just sugarcoating it every day, but you also are so. For anybody who has never met you in person, the positivity is not fake. Like it's not, there might be days you have to convince yourself a little bit more than others, but I can just tell that you are genuine, which I think is so cool.
Thank you. I love that. I hope all of my viewers can understand that I try to be as genuine as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Brittany, we, as you know, we kind of talk shop a little bit, but then we get into some real team talk. And I just kind of want to pick your brain about schools, students, all kinds of things. So you ready to jump into our team talk?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, welcome back. My name is Katie Miglin, and I am with the wonderful Brittany Wolf on Teach Better today, where we not only kind of talk, hang out, but we also get into some real educational value that we hope, whether you're listening to our Teach Better podcast on your way to work, home from work, out on that run, wherever you decide to tune into us, or if you're joining us live early in the morning, that you get to take away some value, that we can kind of challenge you to think a little bit better and be a little bit better for students all over the country. So we've been talking, kind of just talking about Britney's story, Britney's journey, and I've just kind of been like fangirling that I get to hang out with you for a little bit today. But Brittany, you kind of talked a little bit about you going to schools. I know you've talked at conferences. You're a public speaker and also an advocate for students with Tourette's, but also I feel like just students with, disabilities, difficulties, all kinds of things.
100%.
So when you are, let's kind of focus on when you're talking to the adults. So if you are working with educators, what are some things that, like, if an educator is sitting there just kind of like taking it all in, what are some things that you kind of talk to them about? How do you help coach them to approach students in their classrooms?
Yeah, so I do a couple of things where I do share some lived experiences that I've had, both good and bad, because there are a few select teachers that have made lifelong impressions on me, both in a good way. And then I also have a teacher that has left an impression on me where every single time I tell the story, I'm that same scared little girl every single time. Like, I get the pit in my stomach, I get the nervousness, I feel like the tears behind my eyes. Like, I'm that student because he didn't know I had Tourette syndrome, but I was too afraid to tell him that I had Tourette syndrome after he yelled at me to sit still. And because he didn't create that safe environment, there were so many emotions. Like, I was mad at myself for not saying anything. And that could have like ended my advocacy game right there, because I was ashamed of myself for the first time in my life. And I still remember that. My mom still remembers that. I'm surprised my mom didn't go in that school and wring them by the neck, honestly. She was ready to fully prepare to fight for me. But so I try to give some of those stories, and I always try to end on the more positive ones, because those are the ones that stick with me in my heart so strongly and so impactful. And it's not even that much. It was a teacher who just simply asked, like, what can I do to make sure Brittany feels comfortable in my classroom? Like, that's all he did. He brought my mom in for a teacher conference, and that's all he asked. And that meant, so my mom still talks about that. I still talk about that. He was my favorite teacher already before that, because he was like kind of goofy and like nerdy, and I just like, he cracked me up all the time. So I loved that. And then I also try to do like exercises where I bring them in my world a little bit, because it's one thing for me to like talk to you about it, but it's another where I try as best I can. Obviously, nobody will ever understand unless they have Tourette syndrome or some other thing that controls them, like whether it's anxiety, OCD, all of those things, ADHD even. But where I give them exercises where they have to listen to me, but also like take notes. I want them to feel that pressure of the student taking notes in the classroom, where something else is going on in here, where a teacher might not always pick up on that. And that's important, because that's no fault of the teacher at all. Obviously, if they don't know, you don't know what you don't know. And if the teacher is not comfortable, but I really try to stress like making that a comfortable environment and opening it up to like, how can like a science teacher or a math teacher get to know their students, where, because for me, it was always easier with my English teachers because I could write about it. There's different things, like do exercises at the beginning of the 9 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever your school semester is, where you're like, write one thing that you want me to know about you. Only I will see it. And then they give that to them. And maybe at first it's like, I don't say superficial, but like maybe it's just like, my favorite food is tacos. And that's what they say. But maybe as the year goes on, like, what is another thing that you think that I need to know? Maybe the student starts to feel more comfortable and they say, well, I actually have this thing that I need to talk to you about. And then they get to tell them that way. So I try to talk about that. And really just if they do start to pick up on anything, my biggest thing is to talk to them about it privately first. I have been DM'd and told so many horror stories from parents of the teachers becoming the bully. And it breaks my heart. It infuriates me, but it breaks my heart. And you can feel the pain in the parent's voice just by the words that they write to me. The one mom quit her job to start homeschooling her child because it was too much. The teachers in the school, they just didn't understand. He was getting kicked out of the classroom. He was like, the teacher would stop every time he would tick and look at the child. And like, that's not okay. And so I just try to like bring those kind of stories into it too, so that I can remind people like, we're human beings on the inside still. Like we have these that might make us seem different, but we're just like you. Our feelings get hurt, especially if we're a child. And that sticks with us. Like we're with our teachers more than we're at home half the time.
Yep.
We have to remember that there's good days and bad days, and that's classroom. It has to be safe. And so I think the combination of all those things, bringing them into my world as best I can, and just sharing what I have lived through, both good and bad. And I had mostly a positive experience in school. I was very, very lucky. But that bad story still sticks with me in my gut to this day.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the strategy you take, that you just share, right? You kind of just start by just sharing, because maybe I'm naive, but I would like to hope that no teacher goes into the profession to bully a student, into like, right. So I think it's so good for you to kind of talk about the experiences you've heard, the experiences you had, because sometimes all it takes is a teacher to go, wait, I did that, and not realize the other side of it, and it's good for them to have that reflection, because that's where we learn, is in the reflection side. And that there's teachers probably in all of your sessions where they're like, oh, wait, I think I treated a student that way. I had no idea that they would feel this way.
Yeah.
And so it's so powerful, because not a lot of people can give that real firsthand account. And, and not only with your personal, but also just the way you've advocated for students and getting those personal stories from other people, good or bad. I think that's where the power really comes in. And I mean, sitting in your session, I remember when you said the activity where you were giving directions, I remember being so stressed out.
Yeah.
It was very eye-opening, because I was like, oh my gosh, I totally do this for students all the time.
Yes. And I try to like ramp it up a little bit to make that anxious feeling in them. Like I purposely, like I talk faster and I'm just talking about whatever the whole time purposely. And I did that once because I do it in every time, because I think it's a powerful tool, and I might do it differently depending on the setting. But because the first time I started doing it, I started making them doing very like bigger things, and I can tell the room was very hesitant. You could tell that they felt uncomfortable doing it and almost embarrassed. And I'm like, well, see, like I don't have a choice. Like that's how it feels. Like you don't always want to do it. And but I did it at Neomed, which is a Northeast Ohio medical school in Ravenna, Ohio. And I remember the one gentleman, he raised his hand, asked me a question afterwards. He's like, so are you just like really good at multitasking? He's like, because there's no way I could do both of those things at the same time. And I'm like, and it was kind of like a moment. I'm like, yeah, actually I'm always multitasking. Like when I'm working on something, I want a TV show on, I want something on, I want to be having another thing happening at the same time. And I'm like, maybe just because that's what I'm so used to and that's my comfort level. Like he really made me realize something about myself from my own exercise.
That's such a good point, though, because you are multitasking all the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every
that's amazing.
On my day, and a second of my day, well, maybe not every second, but most of my day.
Yeah. The activity, for those of you who haven't experienced it, basically it's where you're trying to do a task while Brittany's talking, and hopefully everyone gets the opportunity to listen to you at some point. But I remember being in your session, and I literally turned to the person next to me. We both taught in the same building, and I remember looking at her and going, oh my gosh, I totally screwed a bunch of students up, because I'm just like, I just talk all the time anyway, so I would just banter with students, and I'm like, how distracting for students who have to work so hard to focus on the task. So I think that was still resonates with me, obviously, like
Well,
what, 2 years later. So that was super cool.
good. That makes me
Yeah.
happy to hear that it still resonates. So I love doing
Yeah.
that exercise because I think that's a real eye opener for a lot of people.
100%, yes. So, if I know you've talked to a lot of like educators, adults, but if you were to stand in front of a room of students and there's no adults around and you just had time with students, what are some tips, advice? What are some things that you want them to hear? And let's say any age.
Yeah. Oh man. I would. This is a hard question, but um, if I was talking to somebody that was not like me, I would want to encourage and give them. I would encourage them to learn about different people. Like go home and ask your parents, like, where can I learn about people with disabilities? Like somebody talked to us about it today. How can I learn about it? And not to be afraid to ask questions. That's for people like me, not like me, whatever. So many parents or adults, sometimes I feel like they're so quick to hush a child, like when they're like, well, why is that person in a wheelchair? Or why are you in a wheelchair? Why can't you walk? Or why can't you just do this? Or why can't you do that with your body? But I would rather it could be like, why are you doing that? So that I can teach them right then and there. Because I think the younger they learn, the more they grow up understanding it, hopefully a less chance of them bullying somebody with it.
Mhm.
And so that would be my thing, is like ask questions, be curious in a nice way, be curious.
Mhm.
If the person tells you they don't want to talk about it, then that's their decision and they're allowed to not talk about it. Not everybody is at a comfort level like I am talking about my Tourette syndrome. And so it can cause a lot more harm. And sometimes when I talk about it too, it causes more tics as well. So definitely ask questions. And then for people that are like me, like don't be afraid to be your complete self. Like you'd be surprised how many people will love you just the same, and that how much easier it can get. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do to disclose, and it is every disabled person's decision to disclose if and when they do. But I always encourage it because for me, it was a weight off my shoulders. I was able to tell them what I had. And in my head, I'm like, well, if they're going to talk about me, they're at least going to have their facts straight. So, and then that might be like my parents rubbing off on me too. They've always instilled confidence in me when it comes to my Tourette syndrome and how like it's fine. And I grew up in a household where Britney just ticked and it's nobody bats an eye. And but that's why I talk to people about it and start off slow. Maybe write your teacher a letter, write your friends a letter, write a letter that you want maybe the guidance counselor to come in and talk for you. You don't even have to admit it. They can just come do a lesson one day and then they learn about it. So I think not being afraid to be yourself and putting yourself out there, and then not being afraid to ask questions.
Oh,
So
I love that.
so long-winded.
No, I love that because you kind of gave a couple steps for the variety of like perspectives a student might have. So whether a student is curious or whether a student is, kind of has that internal battle, I like that you gave them something to do, some actionable steps, because
Yeah.
like you said, every story is going to be a little different, but
Mhm.
navigating it, you kind of help them navigate and figure out what path do you want to take.
Yeah.
And I think that is so interesting. And as a parent of young kids, I love that you said, like, don't hush them, let them ask the questions,
Yeah.
because I do think it's a tricky,
Yeah.
line to find. It's like, I
Right.
don't want to make a person feel uncomfortable, but I also am like, well,
Right.
I want you to know what's going on. I want them to know the truth. And
Yeah, and I
so,
think a lot of disabled spaces, so I am very involved in the disabled community. I try to follow a lot of disabled creators outside of the Tourette syndrome world as well, so it
mhm,
opens up my horizons because I've learned a lot from other creators. So that's a
yeah,
big piece of advice I'd share with anybody watching. But a lot of them, they share the same sentiment. Like let them ask me. Like if I don't want to talk about that day, they'll find a way to like not blow it off, but answer without really answering. But most of
yeah,
the time, we want them to be okay with answering because them being curious is so good. And most kids, they're just so loving and they're just curious. They're not judgmental. Like my niece her and I have finally been able to talk about it a little bit. And it was just so cool for me to like talk to her. And she was so observant. She was seeing me tick one day and I was able to just like, I was typing and I was able to just tell her like, do you know those ticks that I have that your mom told you about? And she's like, yeah. And I told her, I was like, well, that's just what I'm doing. Like, that's what happens sometimes for me. And then she's just like, oh, okay. And went back to her book. Like, and that
but
was
yeah, they
that. And
are.
she knows again.
Right. It's like, it is so funny how I think the adults in all aspects of life overcomplicate things. We like
Yeah.
think way too hard about it, and kids are just simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
If
that's
anybody
so,
is
that's so
an
cool.
overthinker, this girl right here.
Yes, yes. All right. So, Brittany, I love all the like advice and kind of stories you shared. But if someone is like, let's say they're listening on the podcast and they are on their way to work today and they're like, okay, I just need like one thing to work on today. What is one simple challenge you would give them as they go throughout their day dealing with students?
Oh man. Um, I would. Sorry, this is hard. I wasn't
I'm putting
ready.
you on the spot.
One challenge that I would give them is I would say talk to one student about something personal that has nothing to do with school whatsoever today.
Okay.
Like find out that student. Maybe it's that student that's quieter in your classroom. Maybe they're quieter for a reason. Maybe they are just introverted and they don't like to talk. But maybe there is something going on. Challenge that. Ask them to, I don't know if it's like lame or something to have lunch with a teacher. I don't know the rules, but I don't know the cool and not cool rules anymore. Like ask them to have lunch or ask them to stay back after class or just talk to them in the beginning of class, like whatever it might be. Like I would challenge you to get to know something outside of the realm of school, because then if you also can connect with them something completely not related, maybe then that's when they'll feel comfortable talking to you about the hard thing too. Like, what kind of music did you like? What did you do this weekend? Like, and then maybe you'll find out they went to a concert with their parents and they actually really love music and it's something they bond with their mom and dad about. Like, so, or maybe they're learning a new instrument, whatever it might be. And then that opens that floodgate. Like, you don't have to dive right in, but find something out about them like that's outside of the lesson plan.
Oh, I love that because it's so simple. Like it can be in the hallway, it can be in a classroom, it can be in any like role a person plays in the education world. Okay, so that's the challenge today. If you are headed to a school or to be around students today, that is your challenge. If you're listening to this at night, that's your challenge for tomorrow. So, Brittany, this has been so awesome. If someone is like, wait, I haven't heard about Brittany Wolf and I want to connect with her, can you tell me all the gamut of like ways people can connect with you?
Yeah, so the very easiest one I'll start off with is because you can find all my social medias linked to it is BrittanyWolfSpeaks.com, and that's BRITNEY. It's spelled like Britney Spears. Wolf, no E, WOLF, speaks.com. That will have everything on there. It actually links all my YouTube videos and stuff on there, but you can also find me my YouTube, Brittany Wolf. And then most of my other advocacy work is one tick at a time, and that's TIC. So that's how it's spelled for Tourette syndrome. If you're doing it the other way, you're talking about the animal, or the insect, I guess. So one tick at a time. You'll find me on Facebook, TikTok, all of those things. That's where I post my advocacy work and my videos.
And if someone is listening and they want to bring you into their school, what's the easiest or best avenue out of those two platforms to get a hold of you? The one tick at a time?
The BrittanyWolfSpeaks.com would probably be the easiest because there is a book me button right there that'll take you straight to the Teach Better Speakers page where you can set it all up.
Awesome. Okay, and we have to
setting it up for me. He made my whole website for me, so
that's awesome. Can we see your book as well? You haven't even shown your book.
Yes, I have it right here. Who also another shout out to my brother. He made that cover for me. My brother, he's very talented with his digital stuff. I gave him a very poorly drawn thing on like the note on my iPhone. I'm like, this is kind of what I'm thinking. Do you know what I mean? He's like, yeah, I think I got it. And I was really nervous. And they sent me this. I'm like, oh my God, I love it. So I wanted it to show like I went through the whole thing. So I talked about school, I talked about working, I talked about my amazing husband. If you follow me, you know that I'm obsessed with that man. And so then I just decided on it's my life, taking my way through my whole life.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. Well, Brittany, this has been such a fun way to start our day. Thank you so much for giving up time. It's always a treat to have Brittany Wolf a part of anything Teach Better. I love like how involved you are with our team, and just hearing another day of your story is so awesome. So thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to check out Brittany's amazing platforms and if you're interested, you can always book her to come talk to your school, whether the adults or the students or both. She would love that. So thank you, everybody. And we hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Hey, Teach Better community. Thank you so much for joining the Teach Better Today morning show every single weekday at 7 a.m. Eastern. We have so many resources for you outside of this live stream at teachbetter.com, including blogs, podcasts, and professional development that will bring our team to your school. Wherever you are listening from this morning, please make sure you are sharing and celebrating the incredible educators in this world. And hey, if you are listening over on a podcast to Teach Better Talk, we would love a 5-star review. The comments are always so entertaining. We'll see you tomorrow.